Good evening, I'm Amirul Aiman. Here are tonight's top stories. Thailand and Cambodia exchange fire along their disputed border ahead of a scheduled call with Donald Trump. And in Washington, Trump signals plans for major American investment in Russia. All that and more coming up on AWANI International. Fighting between Thailand and Cambodia entered its fourth day as both sides waited for a promised telephone call from US President Donald Trump, who says he believes he can again end the conflict between the two countries. Clashes at more than a dozen locations along the over 800-kilometer Thai-Cambodian border saw some of the most intense fighting since a five-day battle in July. In July, Trump stopped the fighting with calls to both leaders in which he threatened to hold trade talks unless they ended the conflict. Thailand and Cambodia have blamed each other for the latest clashes that started this week and have traded accusations that civilians were being targeted in artillery and rocket attacks. Separately, the ASEAN monitoring team has retreated to a safe zone following the latest clashes between Thai and Cambodian forces along the border of both countries. Malaysian Armed Force Chief General Tan Sri Muhammad Nizam Jaafar said Malaysia is waiting a clearer picture of the situation before deciding on its next course of action. More than 500,000 people have now been displaced in both countries since the conflict reignited. US President Donald Trump's peace plan for Ukraine includes restoring Russian energy flows to Europe and major US investment in Russian rare earth and energy. According to the Wall Street Journal, the proposal shared with European leaders, it also calls for using around $200 billion of frozen Russian funds for projects in Ukraine.
That could include a new data center powered by the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, which is currently under Russian control. US companies would also invest in Russian strategic sectors such as rare earth extraction and oil drilling in the Arctic, while reopening Russian energy exports to Europe and beyond. Trump told reporters he exchanged strong words with European leaders on a call discussing his proposal to end the war. He also said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has to be realistic about his country's position on a peace plan. The Trump administration was earlier reported to be pressuring Kiev into agreeing a rapid peace deal with Russia, with the US president setting a Christmas deadline for an end to the fighting.
That's the headline for tonight. More news coming up shortly after the break.
Desember ini, Astro dengan bangganya membahawakan Sukan Si Thailand 2025 di mana wira kita bangkit menuju kegemilangan. 12 hari liputan langsung menyeluruh. 54 acara sukan. Sokong atlet kita. Dengarkan laungan mereka di Sukan Si Thailand 2025 Ever Forward secara langsung di Astro Arena dan Astro Go.
Kementerian Pendidikan bertanggungjawab sepenuhnya terhadap keselamatan murid dan pelajar sewaktu mereka di sekolah.
Malaysia dan Korea Selatan terus memperkukuh kerjasama dalam bidang teknologi hijau dan kecerdasan buatan AI menerusi pelaburan dua syarikat utama Republik itu.
SPRM akan meneliti dan menjalankan siasatan sekiranya dapat unsur rasuah dalam pelaksanaan projek Aerotrain di KLIA yang dilaporkan sering mengalami gangguan perkhidmatan.
Welcome back. US President Donald Trump says an announcement on which leaders will sit on the new Gaza Board of Peace should come early next year. He told reporters at the White House that interest has been strong, saying kings, presidents, and prime ministers are putting their names forward.
Well, we'll do it early next year. And the Board of Peace are going to, it'll be one of the most legendary boards ever. Everybody wants to be on it. It's mostly going to be, I guess, we weren't thinking about it that way, but they want to all do it. Basically, it'll be the heads of the most important countries.
The Board of Peace was created under a US-backed Gaza plan that established a fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. It was later authorized by the UN Security Council in a resolution last month. That resolution allows the Board of Peace, together with partner countries, to set up a temporary international stabilization force in Gaza. The board is expected to oversee the redevelopment of the territory and coordinate funding, acting as a transitional administration until the Palestinian Authority completes its reform program and can take back control.
US President Donald Trump's administration has unveiled the Trump Gold Card, a visa scheme allowing wealthy foreign individuals to secure the right to live in the United States in return for a $1 million payment. Companies can also sponsor foreign employees for $2 million.
The program promises residency in what it calls record time. Applications start with a $15,000 processing fee, followed by the $1 million contribution once background checks are cleared. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick says around 10,000 people pre-registered and expects the numbers to grow. He added the Gold Card would bring in applicants who could benefit the U.S. economy, comparing them to average green card holders, who he said earn less than typical Americans and are likely to rely on public assistance. The Trump administration hopes the scheme will generate more than $100 billion. It is also planning a platinum card. For $5 million, holders could spend up to 270 days a year in the U.S. without paying tax on income earned abroad. The announcement comes as the administration continues a broad immigration crackdown, reducing both undocumented and legal migration.
US President Donald Trump is demanding that CNN comes under new ownership as part of the Warner Brothers Discovery sale, targeting a news outlet he has long feuded with. On Friday, Netflix agreed to acquire Warner Brothers TV, film, studio, and streaming operations for $72 billion. Paramount then launched a hostile bid valued at more than $108 billion.
I wouldn't want to see the same company end up with CNN, the same company with money, because right now they don't have too much money, but they have value, I guess, based on the bids. So they've got value. But I think CNN should be sold because I think the people that are running CNN right now are either corrupt or incompetent.
Under the Netflix deal, Warner Bros. Would sell CNN and other cable news properties separately before completing the sale of its studio and streaming operations. Under Paramount's offer, CNN would fall under CEO David Ellison, the son of Trump ally Larry Ellison. Regulatory filings also show Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner's affinity partners, is helping finance the Paramount bid, alongside Saudi, Qatari, and Abu Dhabi investors.
Mexico has approved tariff hikes of up to 50% on imports from China and several other Asian countries. A move officials say is aimed at protecting local industries. The measure, set to take effect next year, has already drawn criticisms from business groups and a warning from Beijing.
Mexico will raise tariffs on around 1,400 products, including cars, textiles, plastics, and steel, targeting countries without trade agreements with Mexico, such as China, India, South Korea, Thailand, and Indonesia. Most duties will be around 35%, with some up to 50%. The Senate approved the bill with 76 votes after an earlier, tougher version stalled. The government estimates the measure could bring nearly $3.8 billion to state coffers. China's Commerce Ministry warned the move could harm trade and called it protectionist. Economists, meanwhile, said the move aims to appease Washington ahead of the next United States-Mexico-Canada trade deal review.
US President Donald Trump's administration has announced plans for a new militarized zone in California along the US-Mexico border. It is part of the government's hardline immigration crackdown, which has seen illegal crossings fall to their lowest level in decades.
According to a statement by the Department of the Interior, about 760 acres of public land in San Diego and Imperial counties will be transferred to the Navy over 3 years to support border security operations and national defense. The land was originally reserved in 1907 by President Theodore Roosevelt for border protection purposes. The department said the area remains one of the highest traffic zones for unlawful crossings, posing national security challenges and contributing to environmental damage. Since April, the Trump administration has designated several new militarized zones in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Trump has also authorized the military to detain immigrants suspected of crossing illegally under his January executive order declaring illegal immigration a national emergency.
The United States has seized a sanctioned oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, a move President Donald Trump confirmed on Wednesday. This marks the first time ever the administration has intercepted a Venezuela-linked oil cargo under sanctions imposed in 2019.
The Venezuelan government immediately condemned the operation as blatant theft and international piracy, vowing to take the case to global institutions. It also comes as Trump has repeatedly floated the possibility of military action against President Nicolas Maduro's government. U.S. officials said the operation, involving the FBI, Homeland Security, the Coast Guard, and military support, targeted a tanker accused of moving sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. Maritime security groups identified the ship as the VLCC Skipper, sanctioned for its role in Iranian oil trading. The seizure comes as Maduro accuses the U.S. of seeking to overthrow him and control the country's vast oil reserves. The escalation also coincides with Trump's new foreign policy strategy, which centers on reasserting U.S. dominance in the Western Hemisphere.
Colombian President Gustavo Petro has issued a sharp rebuttal to U.S. President Donald Trump, accusing him of relying on complete misinformation about Colombia's fight against drug trafficking. This comes after Trump warned that Petro will be next amid rising tensions between Washington and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro.
Trump escalated his attacks on Wednesday, accusing Colombia of operating cocaine factories that ship drugs directly to the U.S., and warning Petro he could face big problems if he doesn't wise up. Colombia remains the world's largest producer of coca, the raw material used to make cocaine. Petro's government says it is targeting the criminal networks that turn coca into narcotics. But Trump and his allies accuse Petro of not doing enough to curb production and have repeatedly suggested military action could be on the table. Addressing differences over Venezuela, Petro said Colombia spent 2 years working with former President Joe Biden on a roadmap for a peaceful transition in Caracas that would lead to free elections. He warned that any U.S.-led invasion of Venezuela would burn all of South America, including Colombia, and destabilize democratic cooperation across the region.
U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer says Washington remains strongly committed to completing a trade deal with Indonesia, following concerns about the agreement's stability. He added that he will meet his Indonesian counterpart to discuss the future of a planned trade deal.
He declined to share details of the talks, citing confidentiality, but Greer noted that the U.S. is prepared to move quickly, with discussions set for Thursday to assess current progress. Concerns emerged on Tuesday after the Financial Times reported, citing a U.S. official, that the agreement could be at risk following Jakarta's withdrawal from several earlier commitments. Indonesian officials responded on Wednesday, insisting that negotiations are still underway and that no specific issues have arisen in recent days. The two countries announced in July that Indonesia would remove tariffs on more than 99% of U.S. goods and lift all non-tariff barriers affecting American firms. In return, the U.S. would scale back proposed tariffs on Indonesian products, reducing them to 19% from 32%.
That concludes AWANI International for tonight. Stay with us as we track the strategies and power shifts shaping the new global order. For more updates, visit international.astroawani.com and follow us on social media. I'm Amirul Aiman. Thank you for watching. Good night.